This is your host, Christopher Rennie here, The Chris Rennie Show. We are on episode 16. On this episode, I go through a rewatch of the Cavaliers-Warriors Game 7 in 2016, when the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James became world champions. I then get into a new, wild Netflix show. Many of you have heard of it, Tiger King. We're going to talk about that and go in detail onto why that show is so entertaining and why you should watch it. Lastly, I talk about the football effect and how most major colleges and universities use college football as their main moneymaker. Without college football, a lot of the other athletic programs will disappear. As always, thanks for coming. Don't forget to rate the podcast and subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is brought to you by Mom's Basement Productions. And lastly, follow me on Twitter at Chris Rennie CFB. And follow the show on Twitter at Chris Rennie Show. Thank you and enjoy. I can't do this anymore. What's this guy saying? Who gave these national radio hosts these jobs? Jeez. Can't even understand that guy. What's he even talking about? I can't take it anymore. Those national media personalities making you feel like that, make a change. Listen to this idiot about the sports that matter from the opinion that matters. Haha, you said it, not me. Now for today's takes from the most opinionated host in sports talk. Welcome in, everybody. This is your host, Christopher Rennie, bringing you another episode of The Chris Rennie Show. Yes, I know I'm still your favorite host. You keep coming back for whatever reason you do, but today's show is going to be pretty spectacular. We are going to relive one of the greatest sports moments of my life. We are going to talk about why you need to take health codes and all these aspects the CDC are putting out in regards to this disease seriously, and we're going to talk about some other topics, including one of the most nutty shows I've ever seen in Tiger King and the football effect on major programs. Man, it's been a wild ride this quarantine. I think my girlfriend today told me we're on day 18. It feels like we've been in it longer than that, but that's just because we got to be inside. As many of you know, and many of you have been taking serious the rules and the social distancing and what it needs to be for us to get back to living our normal lives. So I'm going to lead the show off today with a question. Have you ever watched anything with vampires or zombies in it? So this is usually how it starts, a world pandemic. The Spanish flu, the Spanish fever, that's one. You go all the way back to the Black Death. That's where vampires are commonly starting, in that time period. Now you go to zombies. You ever see the movie Resident Evil or any other movie? It's usually some government interference. Why were we so worried about what China was doing? It's because there was a possibility that when you lock down a city and make it look like a war zone from the outside, there's something bigger going on, something more suspicious. It starts with a pandemic. It starts with a disease. That disease mutates. Boom. We got zombies. I'm not saying we're going to become zombies, but this is how it always starts. Now we've got these pharmaceutical corporations working on vaccines to save the world or to take over and control the world. That's a question. We all know what the Umbrella Corporation is. Not to be an alarmist, but every zombie movie almost always starts with someone eating something they shouldn't, getting sick. They create sort of a virus to test on people. All of these things have been said about the coronavirus. They're all definitely living in their own mythos at the moment, but we'll see as evidence comes out surrounding where this disease came from, the origins of it, and why it's affecting humans at the rate it's affecting him. So, one thing I will say is humans can't survive themselves. So stop going outside, stop coughing on each other, stop doing stupid things in public, like touching everything. I saw a video online of a lady today in the Foothill Canyon area of California who was at a store, like a big Walmart or a big Sam's Club type store, Costco type store, and she was touching every single piece of like technology equipment, so all the cameras, all the computers, and she was just touching them. What was the point of that lady? I mean, that person should probably be jailed for putting all those other people at risk. It's like a serious disease. People are legitimately dying from it, and that's why you have to take it seriously. We don't want people to turn into zombies. We don't want people to be put at risk for their lives, and that's what some of these idiots are doing out in public. Some adverse effects for the idiots, so they take this more seriously. No NBA playoff, no baseball season, no college football season. And that is criminal. And what's more criminal is people are dying. So let's take this seriously. That's how I'm opening this show up today. I have not went down that road of watching any movies like Pandemic or any movies like Resident Evil. It was just a thought I had that occurred. We are in a pandemic right now. This disease has spread over a large area, and it's prevalent throughout an entire country. So when you take up the words epidemic and pandemic, which the epidemic word sure did get Floyd Mayweather yesterday on his Instagram Live. But if you recall, a epidemic affects a lot of people quickly, and a pandemic is an epidemic that turns nationwide. So once the pandemic broke China, the epidemic broke China, it became a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic actually. So it's not just affecting one country, it is affecting the world. And that is why this is so crazy and interesting. But realistically, the only things us humans can do are stay inside, rewatch sporting events, play video games, watch all those Netflix shows you want to get caught up on. Like Larry David said, this is a great opportunity. How many other opportunities are you going to have to just sit inside, hang with your family, hang with your significant other, hang with your friends, that you live with, roommates only, and just enjoy television, enjoy movies, get caught up on all those films you missed. They're all on Apple Movie, they're Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, all the streaming services have some new movies. You can buy them, you can rent them online. Xbox has it, PS4 has their marketplace where you can get movies. So it's possible. There is so much stuff I missed that I'm still getting caught up on. And that is what takes me into my next topic of conversation. So ESPN has been airing classic games. Tonight it's going to be the USC-Texas National Championship, where Vince Young scored on a game-winning drive. One of the greatest national championships of all time. USC's other championship did not count, so we are really looking into what... I'm going to rewatch that one because I really was a little too young to fully capture that moment, truly understand the ramifications of the game. It's going to be nice listening to... I'm pretty sure it was Musburger on the call on Herb Street. So it'll be nice to hear the commentary of the game, truly understand it. Because you got to think, when that game was on, I was like 7 or 8 years old. So maybe 9. I think let's take a look at the date. USC national title game took place. The Texas USC National Championship game took place on the date of January 4th in 2006. So I had just turned 9. All right, so I was a big USC fan of this team. I think most Americans were. Hindsight, the team I've grown more fond of over the years has been Texas, and the team I've grown less fond of over the years is USC. But I really liked Matt Leinart. I even wanted to learn how to throw left-handed. I really liked Reggie Bush. He made me wearing 5 like one of the coolest kids there was because I shared the same number as Reggie Bush, one of the most electric football players in the history of the sport. So Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fun rewatch to the 2006 Rose Bowl game. So, yeah, but the rewatch I took in last night was the Cavs Warriors game 7. And for many of you, you know I am a diehard Cavs fan. And, most of the time on this show, I like to talk about what's current, the events that are happening. I'm not a projector, I'm not a guy who relives moments. So, in this quarantine, we're going to have to do that a little bit. So, I rewatched the Cavs Warriors game 7, at least parts of it. And, to start, I just want to say I still have never watched game 5, which was on before. Didn't want to. I was really fearful that we were going to lose. I thought I was the bad luck. Jinx, that's what I thought I was. We went down 3-1. I had watched all 4 games leading up to it. The only game I hadn't watched was the game they won because I had prior arrangements. So I was like, dang it, we're 0-3 when I watched. I can't watch these games. So I didn't watch game 5. Missed one of the greatest performances, LeBron on the road in game 5 was spectacular. It was one of those series where you just hoped as a team that you could just get to that next game, and that's what the Cavaliers did. I've got the games pulled up, and in game 5, that was the game where you had LeBron James go off for 41 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, and then you had Kyrie Irving go off for 41 of his own points, and the Cavaliers dominated the Warriors and won 112-97. Now, in my own head, I was like, wow, we got momentum going. I'm going to tune into game 6. Not going to watch it in its entirety. We're going to take it in. We're going to hope for the best. And if they win, that means I'm going to be able to watch game 7, because if they lost, obviously that meant the series was over. So now we know game 6, how that went. The Cavs get home. LeBron James, J.R. Smith, the reverse alley-oop thrown from Mr. Smith. LeBron James, 41 points. Tristan Thompson absolutely dominated the boards. Kyrie Irving had another nice 23-point game. And, you just got so much from the role players in that game. And that's really what made it spectacular. In the short amount of time that some of these guys played, they made an impact. Mo Williams with his 4 points. It was crazy, but it was really, really an electric game. So that takes me to game 7. And you have it all. The Cavs are going back to Oracle Arena. They're taking on the 73-9 Warriors. This team was unbeatable throughout the year. They were having fun. They were shimmying. They were throwing their mouth guard, all that stuff. Wait, the mouth guard happened a little later. But we get the point, and this game was a little bit more old school. You get these two flashy teams with their flashy stars. Steph Curry's pulling up from 90 feet out. It was one of those games where at any moment the teeter-totter could have went a little too far one way. And, you sort of see that way the box score broke down. It was 23-22 after the first quarter. The Warriors ended up taking a halftime lead. It was 49-42, if I did the math right in my head, and I did. Then the Cavs come back with a huge third quarter to get this game within 1 point going into the final quarter, and then they ended up in the ugliest quarter of basketball I've seen that Golden State Warriors team play. It was just this back and forth of just missed shots, tough defense, turnovers that you just thought were going to end this game. And it just kept happening. And, I remember being in my seat every time someone scored, every time the Warriors, they got back out to this 4-point lead. And then I was like, oh, God, this is the moment. This is where it all falls apart. This is where all this last week, these last months, the whole basketball season of me saying we're going to get our revenge on the Warriors. Kyrie Irving's healthy. Kevin Love's healthy. All of this talk was just, it was ended. And then, LeBron, this was a play I didn't really remember all that well. He up-fakes Festus Ezeli after he gets the switch and hits 3 clutch free throws. And everyone usually knocks LeBron for not making his free throws, but he hit them. And now you've got this game. It's within 1. There's some back and forth. Kyrie hits this magnificent layup. Klay Thompson gets this easy bucket. Now we're still in this game. And then, boom, it's tied. You look at the score, it's tied. 89-89. And then freaking Andre Iguodala goes out and he gets the ball from Curry in the fast break. And you see LeBron just absolutely electrifyingly just take off from about that logo near the three-point line, the mid-court logo, that quarter court logo, whatever you want to call it, the NBA Finals logo that's on the side. He takes off. And you see him, and this man jumps, and he almost hits his head on the rim. He goes up with both hands because he's making sure this thing's getting blocked. The shot gets blocked. All right, so now a couple series go by. There's 2 series, and then this is where one of the greatest moments in Kyrie's history, and probably the greatest moment that'll be in his career. He hits the shot. The Cavs go up 92-89. We're all in. This is over. We've got 40-something seconds left. Now the Warriors get the ball. They go for it. This is where it comes in. Kevin Love denies Curry a driving lane, plays perfect on-the-ball defense for a big on a very capable ball-handling guard, one of the better ball handlers in the league in Curry. He's always in control. He's always slithery. He can get to the rim pretty well for his size and his stature. And then Mr. Kevin Love gets Curry to leave the ball. He passes it off to Draymond. Then they give the ball back to Curry. So what are we doing again? Kevin Love, Game 7, not known to be a pro-positive defender. He'll never be an all-NBA defensive power forward. He'll never be an all-NBA defensive center. We all know that. But when it came the moment, Kevin Love put on clamps. And he did not have a great series. He was seen as a liability, in those smaller lineups. And in the moment the Cavs needed him the most, he came up big. And, you go look at the box scores. Kevin Love had a 7-point game. He had a 4-point game in that final series. Everyone's like, man. But when the moment mattered, he came up huge. And, this is where this team was so special. You look at the role players. You look at Iman Shumpert. You look at J.R. Smith. You look at RJ. You look at those guys, and they played their role. Matthew Dellavedova. Those guys came in. They played hard defense. They were disruptors. They did not allow for many baskets. They played some of the best defense I'd ever seen, and everyone was really concerned with Iman Shumpert coming in that last series when the Cavs were only up by 3 points and defending Curry. Well, then they got the switch, and then it was like, well, that doesn't even matter anymore. Now you've got a decent matchup with Shumpert on Draymond Green, and now you've got Kevin Love on Steph Curry. Well, what happens? They both do their jobs. And that is sort of where the simplicity came in on what made the Cavs the better team in those last 3 games. The Warriors were coming out and they were pressing. They were forcing the issue. They were not playing Warriors basketball. The Cavs simplified it. The genius of Ty Lue in that series was a game plan. In the 2 games where Kyrie Irving and LeBron James scored 40 points, and then LeBron had the other 40-point game and Kyrie had 27. And then that final game, it was isolation basketball, old school basketball, but you had 2 legitimate offensive options with Kyrie Irving, who's a willing passer when he needs to be, can get to the rim at will, can hit a 3 whenever he wants. And then, freaking LeBron, he was 0 for the century in that game from 3. And then he hits the biggest 3 ever after he hits 3 free throws. Absolutely astonishing. It was insane. And now you're just like, wow, we can't lose. LeBron just hit that 3, just didn't touch anything. And it was 89-89. And then, boom, the block happens, the shot happens, the stop happens. Shumpert played defense. J.R. Smith made his plays. It was just a team effort. And that's where you saw the separation. And then, obviously, Kevin Durant comes and ruins all this rivalry and stuff. So, this is the best part about rewatching games. You get to relive those emotions, but you also get to remain calm because you know the outcome. But there was still moments where I felt in those last 5 minutes, I'm fist pumping. I'm like, come on, guys. And it's like, this game happens. I know what happened in the game. It's crazy. I understand that. And I know I speak for so many Cleveland sports fans here. There's been nothing close to that moment in our lifetime. The heartbreak, the heartbreak of LeBron leaving and losing that first year. The pain of all these sports teams not winning. You have the Indians in the World Series a couple times. You have the Indians losing in the ALCS to the Red Sox, blowing a 3-0 lead. It's just been a rough ride, man. The Browns are absolutely terrible. The Browns left. So, you get that. You get the return of LeBron James after 8 years. You lose in the finals to the Spurs when he's 22 years old. They get upset by the Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals because Hedo Turkoglu is the only time he's ever actually been important in anything in regards to basketball history. Dwight Howard was a dominant force. We get it. Kobe ends up winning that finals, and it robbed us from the only NBA finals we could have had with Kobe Bryant and LeBron James. Now, continuing down that road, those 4 years of LeBron in Miami, that first year, I absolutely despised the sight of basketball. I hated basketball. The Miami Heat it made me sick to see LeBron in a Heat uniform, and then he lost. And then I kind of felt bad. I was like, man, LeBron really bet everything and then lost to the Mavericks. And I was really happy for Dirk Nowitzki. Huge Dirk Nowitzki fan. Always liked the Mavericks. I always liked Jason Kidd, Jason Terry. Fun team. Really enjoyed watching them. Sean Marion was on that team as well. So they were very good. Rick Carlisle had the team going. It's one of the bigger upsets in history of basketball. And now this super team comes back and, everyone's doubting LeBron. And I'm like, man, they're doing it again. So I felt bad. And I was rooting for the Heat those next two finals. The next three, honestly, I didn't like the Spurs much either. So I just chose back in LeBron. I know I didn't really care much for OKC. So it was nice to see them win that finals. And then, around year 2, I remember looking at the cap space. I remember when LeBron left, I said, LeBron signed for 4 years, and I said, he's going to come back, and he's going to win a championship for Cleveland. There's no way he's just going to leave us like this and not come back. And then I get my Sports Illustrated in the mail after I see the news, and I open it up, and it says, I'm coming home. And I'm like, holy freaking crap, it's happening. It's happening. I get down my framed LeBron jersey that I haven't had up on my wall in a long time. I break out the old blue retro uniform and I go to the beach with my friends in my LeBron James jersey and I said, man, he's coming home. And this was the greatest sports moment of my life until this game happened. So now you get the return. You get 82 games in. The Cavs are struggling. They fire David Blatt, all that stuff the next year. It's been a wild ride, Kevin Love got hurt in the Eastern Conference Finals. I still absolutely despise the sight of Kelly Olynyk. Kyrie Irving comes back a little early from his knee injury, and then, boom, he bangs his knee in overtime. The Cavs were going to win that game. They ended up losing. And then LeBron wills that team to 2 wins, and it was too much for him. The Warriors come back from down 2-1, win the series. And I remember Jeff Van Gundy talking about it after. It was like, the Warriors are the better team. They're going to come back and win. I'm like, Jeff Van Gundy, you're stupid mother effer. I hate you. I can't even stand when you're on games. But, hindsight's 2020. As a fan, you look at it and you just want your team to be the best. He did not want my team to be the best at the time, and that hurt. And they ended up losing. And he was right. And I had to give him credit. So that year, it was tough. And every time I heard Jeff Van Gundy's voice, I wanted to punch him square in his bald head. And now we're there. We're in that moment again. Jeff Van Gundy's the guy who's calling the game. Mark Jackson's calling the game. And I can't stand it. And I'm like, these guys, they don't want us to win. They don't want us to win. They're rooting for the Warriors openly. They weren't rewatching the game. I realize that. They were just appreciating the great basketball, and that's what I got to do yesterday. And as you go further away from the moments and you take the emotions out of it, it's great. And then, this was just such a great time rewatching that game, reliving those emotions, and it's the most meaningful championship in sports history. There are a lot of great sports moments, but a man leaves, is the most hated man in the state, public enemy number 1 in the league, goes away, is the villain, takes on the role for the league, ends up living up, meeting his divine right of being an NBA championship, the chosen one. He ends up living up to that expectation and getting his championship, and then he goes home. to the place so long forsaken by all of society. And after all the manufacturing and industrial jobs left, it was not great. And sports were the escape for the people of Cleveland. And they got a savior in LeBron, drafted him. He grew up Akron, 20 minutes from Cleveland, went to St. Vincent and Mary High School, a Cleveland private Catholic university, or Catholic high school. What am I saying? And we lost him to Miami, to a city that people love. It's spicy, it's fun. There's salsa dancing, there's great food, great culture. You're driving over that bridge to South Beach. I remember seeing the video of Dwayne Wade and LeBron in a Ferrari, and I was like, man, they're living the life. I see why he left. I kind of understand it. I left too. And then he came back, and I was like, this is it. That's what it was all about. And that's why it was so great. So moving forward a little bit, we are going to continue down the road of new and old. So, if you guys haven't yet, take the opportunity to go look it up real quick and watch the trailer. It's on Netflix. It's called Tiger King. And this movie is just absolutely, or this limited series is absolutely insane. Let's read. I'm going to try to find the description. So, a zoo owner spirals out of control amid a cast of eccentric characters in this true murder-for-hire story from the underworld of big cat breeding. So, in this show, there are 3 main people that are being followed. There is Joe Exotic, Doc Antle, and Carol, Carol Baskins. Carol Baskins is the head of Tiger Rescue. Doc Antle owns a safari in Myrtle Beach, and Joe Exotic owns a tiger farm, pretty much a breeding farm for tigers in the middle of Oklahoma. So Joe Exotic is this wild man who is very eccentric, honestly, the more you watch the show, you'll understand. And Doc Antle is a cult leader, and Carol Baskins is a psychotic housewife who got a lot of money from possibly murdering her husband or making him disappear. Either way, very wild, and it follows these people. And it's by far one of the craziest shows I've ever watched. And it's just not really it's not a show about good people. All of these people are terrible individuals. They do not want to see the world in a better place. And then you have the supporting cast of people. One guy owns a chimp farm. One guy owns a bunch of animals. He was a former drug dealer. Some people said he was what Scarface was based on. And to me, that is scary. And that guy was crazy. And the reason he sold drugs was to feed his addiction to exotic animals. And that is the type of show it is. And, I have never seen a show as crazy as Tiger King. You guys can tweet me your favorite crazy shows, but this one, honestly, not finished with it yet. Finished episode 4 today. We are going to probably watch the rest of them the rest of this week. So, taking a look, now Carol Baskins is getting investigated for the murder of her husband. Joe Exotic, I'm pretty sure, is in jail. And then, so this is just not a story of the great people of the world. It really isn't. It is a story of people who really like endangered animals, and they are taking advantage of those endangered animals, and it is not pleasant to watch. At first, they sort of paint these individuals as these people who just unrelentlessly care for the tigers, but then you start getting into the dark side of these individuals and why they'd want to get into this industry and this dark, this black market sort of place with these animals. And it's been really tough to watch, and these people but take a look, watch Tiger King, discuss Tiger King. It is billed as a show with cults, murders, rivalries, and a murder for hire story. So yeah, it's absolutely insane. That is my public service announcement for the week in regards of, I guess, entertainment. So we'll move on to topics I'm more inclined to talk about. The football effect. At most colleges and universities, the moneymaker is college football. You look at schools and you look at Ohio State's football team revenue, and that's an example because it's close to me and I see it all the time. They make up for it makes up for most of Ohio State's revenue as a whole. So last year their revenue was $185 million. So that is absolutely absurd. $185 million. That pays for almost all of the other programs. And most of the other, I want to say 9 programs on each side. So Ohio State, the only 2 sports that make money are men's basketball and men's football. None of the other sports turn a profit. And that is because they're more expensive than what they put out. So what is the worry for most athletic directors right now? And this has been a big common discussion online for ADs, for school presidents, and it's this COVID-19 pandemic and what it's going to mean. Because these schools already missed that 625 monetary distribution from the NCAA, from the March Madness tournament. That is like 25% to 30% of a lot of these schools' athletic revenue when they make it. And that increases what a school can operate with. So now you take away, and I just read you, Ohio State's athletic revenue is like $220 million, and $185 million of that is from football. So now you start looking into the ramifications of that. And with Title IX, great for equality, but it really changes and challenges the schools from a budgetary standpoint in regard to athletics. So now you look at these breakdowns online from the New York Times, from whoever is talking about it, and it's just really in depth. And it's crazy to me that schools rely on football so much for fielding their other athletic programs. So yeah, realistically, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same if football season doesn't happen. I mean, where football makes its money is TV. And if games are able to be played in a safe environment and they're able to broadcast it on television, they're going to do it. There's no questions about it. It's too much money to lose. And if there aren't games or college football, it's going to hurt a lot of universities. So the importance of football really can't be mitigated. It really does help a lot of colleges. And the colleges that don't rely on football are still going to be struggling because they're not going to have their other sports that allow them to make money. And it's going to be tough for these schools that operate with these funds. Doing research into it, the importance of football at a lot of major state schools has always been extremely evident. And, there's some really interesting articles online about this. I know I subscribe to Matt Brown's email newsletter that he does, and he talked about some of the effects of football programs at smaller schools and how they have transformed some schools into being more of a true college experience, and how some schools like Northeastern University have completely cut their programs because it just wasn't serviceable. Cost more money than it was to maintain. And now if there's not a football season, you could say goodbye to schools like UConn or schools like Idaho who are absolutely struggling with filling up their stadiums and providing the amount of money that it takes to run a football program. Now, schools like Ohio State, recession-proof when it comes to football program. Schools like Alabama, recession-proof when it comes to a football program. LSU, same place. The big dogs are going to survive, no questions about it. Then you start getting into schools in tougher regions, schools like, say, a Boston College, schools like a school in Maine in the FCS, a school like that. A school like Delaware, a school in the Northeast where the football isn't as prioritized and the money costs so much to run it. And, everyone loves their football. Everyone likes to go to the football games, whether you like the game on the field or not. It's an experience for college kids. I know everyone at Ohio State loves to spend a Saturday in the shoe, and some people who like football actually enjoy watching it more at home, but there's a lot of students who really enjoy that experience of raising your shoe in the air, waving it around, getting it snatched, moved around the stadium, trying to find that shoe. You're not getting it back, bro. That's how it happens. And then, so off topic, but it's just crazy that football has such a big impact on schools, and this is why it's important that it comes back, because if not, there's going to be some serious financial ramifications for universities moving forward. Athletic directors are talking bailouts, and that is really interesting to see because it's already publicly funded, the university, so they just get additional money from sports. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out, how the operating costs turn out, what's going to happen come September, October. I mean, it is only March. A lot can change in the next 7 months or so, 6 months. What you need is a decision to be made. We need this all to be figured out. The athletic directors will be meeting in July to finally decide the fate of college football and how it's going to happen. Now we're going to get into some breaking news, and then that'll be it for the show. So my first set of breaking news, Tom Brady is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. That is not official yet, but he is living there right now. Where is Tom Brady staying in Tampa Bay? No other than his old friend Derek Jeter's house. What a way to rub the salt in the wound of a Boston fan than live in Derek Jeter's home. That is awesome. Tampa Bay is a place where Derek Jeter's made fortunes, and he is the current Miami Marlins CEO, if you guys did not know that. And it is next door to defensive tackle Brad Culpepper, who is now a personal injury attorney. So they're going to play. I mean, it's great. He's already engulfing himself into Tampa Bay. There's probably not a nicer house in the Tampa Bay area to stay in than Derek Jeter's 30,000-foot waterfront mansion. I think this was a power move on his part, staying in a New York Yankees mansion. The Red Sox hate that. There's no way Boston fans are taking that lightly. This is just him saying, I'm out, and my rich friend, the reason I'm down in Tampa Bay, is going to let me stay in his place. I'm going to rent it, and we are going to find a place near it, and that's how it's going to be. But yeah, Boston fans, I've moved on. I'm on to making billionaire moves. This is it for you. So now we've got Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. No one thought it was going to happen. He's staying at Derek Jeter's house. That's a Yankee. He's a Boston guy. Tom Brady, is he not? He's not anymore. And now we're going to start seeing him get into business developments and real estate, probably. That's probably his next big baller move. The next one on the list, LaMelo Ball, is in the news for all the right reasons. And, LaMelo Ball sort of got out of the spotlight. His dad was causing a lot of problems. He goes to Australia, wants to play ball there after he gets in trouble for the whole shoe thing, can't go to college. So now he buys the NBL team, the National Basketball League of Australia team that he played for. So their financial situation is doing well enough that he can buy a full team. And this is what his agent, Jermaine Jackson, told ESPN. Melo loves the Illawarra fans. He loves that community. They opened their arms to him. They made us feel like we were at home. When we started hearing about the issues they were going through, we talked about it and decided, let's own the team. So LaMelo is always going to be able to have that piece of his past with him, and that part that gave him a future in basketball again with him. So he expects more youngsters could follow this path, and there is a really good business side of this deal if he keeps continuing to get players like himself to make that move into that youth program, that elite youth program they put in for NBL teams to get young stars from U.S. high schools to come to the NBL. So it's going to be interesting to see how the NBL grows as a place for NBA prospects to go. It's great that he did that for a struggling business, and it's going to be interesting to see how the NBL continues to move forward with young stars like LaMelo Ball. The last thing on my list is AB working out with Hollywood Brown and Lamar Jackson. Now, Hollywood Brown and Lamar Jackson seem to have their heads on pretty straight. AB, for a while, did not. He has since gone on his apology tour. Will it be enough? We will see. The last instance we have of Antonio Brown is him yelling at his baby mama and verbally abusing her in the front yard in front of the children. So if NFL owners are able to overlook that, it's going to be a really, really big conversation coming back when Antonio Brown is possibly in the NFL again. Is winning worth what he has done? I do not believe so. I will never ever agree with Antonio Brown being on an NFL roster again. There is two ways to earn it. Your talent and your character can sometimes outweigh that. And I think there are young players in the NFL who are talented, who deserve the opportunity, and should be allowed in a locker room where AB should not be allowed. And that's how I'm going to close out the show today. This year is Christopher Rennie. As always, subscribe and rate the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast, I should say, and rate it. Tonight I am making my famous chili, and I will be making chili tots with cheese. They're going to be delicious, and you guys are going to be really jealous when I post a picture on the page. But that is what it's going to be tonight. This is the Chris Rennie Show, and your host saying, stay inside, let's have some college football this fall. Thank you.